Yeah, good evening, everyone. So, yesterday we learned about how to implement material library, how to work with that. So, you need to practice different components from that. So, you need to explore and learn them. Now, from today, we will see how we can work with the concept of TypeScript. That means actually, all these days, we built React application with JavaScript. So now in the modern web designing, some companies use TypeScript. So what is the concept of TypeScript? I will give a simple overview here. So we are using JavaScript for developing web applications. What are the issues in JavaScript? So first, we need to know that point. So issues with JavaScript. What are the key issues with JavaScript from developer point of view? From developer point of view, some major issues about JavaScript is it is not strongly typed. It is not a strongly typed language. Usually, for example, I say var x equal to 10. That means now x is number. And into x, I stored a, then automatically x is string. Into that, I store some true, then x becomes boolean. X is boolean. That means boolean. That means it is not a strongly typed language. Data type restrictions not there. You declared a variable in that you can store any kind of data. Later you can send a string, you can send a number. Automatically it changes the type. So that is not good. So if we say integer, then it should be able to handle only integer. If it is not strongly typed, you need lot of validation. When user inputs, we have to verify, is it a number or string? If it is a number, store, not, then reject. If it is strongly typed, without validation, it will verify whether the value you are assigning is a number or not. So JavaScript is not a strongly typed language. That is one major problem. Another important, it is not implicitly strictly typed. It is not implicitly strictly typed. It is not implicitly strictly typed. Implicitly strictly typed means while writing, what is difference between strongly, strictly? Strongly is about data type. Strongly is about data type. And strictly is about rules, programming rules. In JavaScript, even you don't follow the programming rules, many concepts will work. That leads to a lot of code inconsistency. For example, suppose I am writing a script in the x equal to 10, and I am writing document or say simply console.log x equal to the value of x. Is it a valid code? X is a variable we never declared, but we are trying to use it. Is it a valid code? It is valid. In JavaScript, it is valid. That is not good. That means you cannot use a variable without declaring. It's mandatory that variable must be first declared. Then you can assign or initialize. So JavaScript is not strictly typed. You have to manually turn on the strict mode. How? Do you know how people turn on the strict mode? By using use strict. By using use strict, they turn on strict mode. Now, if anybody writes the logic without following the standards, then what happens? X equal to plus X like this. Without following the standards, if anybody writes the logic, then this it will return as invalid. But important, this you have to manually turn on. Many programming languages, they are strongly typed. That means they restrict data types. They are strictly typed. That means they can correctly follow the standards of coding. They will not allow to violate the standards of coding. So JavaScript is not strongly typed. JavaScript is not strictly typed. Another important, so actually JavaScript, it provides schemaless data. It provides a schemaless data, structureless data. Schemaless data, because data type is not sure, then it is completely structureless. Structureless means in a reference, you can store any kind of data. Any type of data you can store. That means in one row, you stored a number. In another row, you stored a string. It's okay, it will take. That means schemaless is nothing but, suppose we have an array of object. In this object, suppose we have name. And in name, we have TV like this. In another object, so we have name. We have name. And in that we have some number. So it is valid. It will take because in a reference, you can store any kind of data. It is structureless. And not only that, suppose in another object, you can have some product name. So it is okay. It will accept. It is okay. It will accept. How it can be like that? One can have name, another have product name. That means this is valid in JavaScript, but this is completely structureless. It is schemaless, structureless. So the data is completely structureless. So one of the major issue with JavaScript is this. Another point, we know already that it is not an OOP language. It is not an object-oriented programming language. So it supports some features of OOPs that already I explained. When we discussed about classes concept, I already given a detailed overview about that. It supports some features of OOPs, but it is not a OOP language. So then what is problem? Extensibility issues will be there. Extensibility issues will be there. Code level security issues will be there. We have code level security issues, extensibility issues. These are all the problems for a developer. So at a large scale, we cannot depend on these kind of languages because we need good extensibility, we need good code level security, we need structured data, we need to reduce consistency issues of coding. But JavaScript have all these problems. But what is only the concept is, it is the only language understandable to browser. Browser can understand only JavaScript. But JavaScript is not convenient for a developer at high level. Then developer's intention is to use some language which can allow him to write the logic in a more simpler and in a more effective manner. But that logic will not directly work. It is translated into JavaScript finally. That means, I hope you people know, we have CSS. Generally, majority of you people know, we have CSS. CSS have a lot of issues. CSS is having a lot of issues. Reusability, maintainability, everything will be issues. That is the reason in real-time projects, we don't directly write CSS everywhere. What developers do, they write using Sass. So by using Sass, we write the styles. And after that, we convert that into CSS. That is the basic approach we follow. Why developers use Sass? Because Sass provides simplified techniques for writing logics. For example, I will show you the point so that you can understand here. Suppose, what is the concept of that Sass actually? Just roughly, I will show you a point here. I'm adding some folder here. Let's say this is some other project. Let's add here some project, something. In this, I'm adding a index page. Some index page I am adding. In this index page, we have some images. That means we have some divs. This div have a class box1 like that. Now like this, we have 5 boxes. We have the 5 boxes, 3, 4, 5, like that boxes are there. Now what is the point is, I want to apply some styles for them, right? That means how I want is, first box here, second box here, third box here, fourth box here, like that I want, like a ladder style. Then how you will write CSS? How you will write CSS for this? We have to write a class. What is it? Box1. What should be? Margin left. So how much? Some 100 pixel. What about box 2? Box 2, we have margin left. So it should be 200 pixel, like that. How many like that you will write? If you show this code to a developer, so means a professional programmer, then he will say, why you are rewriting this again and again? Then professional programmers are not satisfied with this. 10 boxes, 10 times you have to write. Of course, 10 times we have to write. Is there any solution? No solution in CSS. Then what you can do is, you can take help of, I say, some effects.scss. This is Sass. It is not CSS, it is Sass. Sass is a language we generally call as CSS preprocessor or pre-compiler or preprocessor. We call CSS preprocessor. In Sass, what developer can do is, he can utilize all his programming skills, which he can do in CSS. In CSS, he cannot utilize his programming skills like if condition, for loops, he can't write. But in SAS, he can write. SAS, he can write. That means how we will write is wherever div is present. For div, I am giving width. Width is how much? Suppose 100 pixel. So height is how much? Some 100 pixel. And border is how much? So border supposed to pixel solid black. Now that is div, but we have 6 boxes or we have 5 boxes. Then what we will do is we will write a for. So for, so we use $I from 1 through, so 1 through 5. That means from 1 to 5. We will access here. So we will access dot class. Class is what? Box hyphen. We will put a binding expression as $I. That means box 1, box 2, box 3 until box 5. We will keep margin left for every box as $I into some 100. That means first time it will be 1 into 100, 2 into 100, 3 into 100, 4 into 100, 5 into 100. This is not possible in CSS. When you go to large scale projects, even in React also, they will ask that our majority CSS is in SAS. You need some knowledge of SAS also. Because, so the point is you have used Bootstrap. Bootstrap is built with SAS. They design Bootstrap with SAS. All the Bootstrap source code is in SAS only. Now developers will write like this. Can a browser understand this? No. Browser cannot understand. Then why you are writing? Browser can understand only CSS. Then why you are writing this? We are writing because we can utilize all the programming features and we can simplify the logic. Then how browser understands? There will be a translator which will translate this code into browser understandable CSS. That's so good then. That means nobody in a company will force you to use SAS. If there is long concept of writing CSS and you don't use SAS and you try to write everything in CSS, that is your problem. That means company will never force you. They will, until or unless they already have everything in SAS. They will say that if you know SAS, use it. Because if you can use SAS, you can do it in a faster way. So finally, this is not suitable for HTML page. In HTML page, we cannot link this. Then how? We have to translate this. I will open the terminal. We have to translate SAS effects.scss into effects.css. It will translate this into CSS code. And hit enter, you can see that it creates a CSS file. In that CSS file, it will put all the CSS code. You can see a CSS is generated and observe the CSS. This is according to your tradition. And this CSS, we usually link to our page. So link relation is equal to what? Style sheet, and link href is what? It is in effects.css. We can't link SAS files. And you can see that now it will have the appearance of what the styles you are having here. That means I think here what it is, class, I written some Effects, what is box 1, box 2, box 3, all these are applied. Here we have classes. Box 1, box 2, box 3. Is there a style sheet? Is it applied? Not applied? Some problem with effects.css. Some problem there. What is already code generated properly only? Acha, pixels is not there. Actually, it should have. So 100. So what pixels? I haven't given pixels. Now you can see the appearance will be like this. This manually, if I have to write like this, it will take time. Actually, it takes these many lines of code to write. Then developers will write this. Remember, finally, browser cannot understand this 10 lines. It can understand only these 20 lines, 25 lines. So that means then why developer is using Sass? Because it is convenient for him. That is not suitable for browser. It will translate, no problem. That is the concept of TypeScript and JavaScript. That's the reason majority projects will not force you on TypeScript. They will say that we will do in JavaScript only. But if you have some issues as a developer to use lot of JavaScript because of strictly typed, strongly typed and structured based issues, for everything you have to depend on third party again. By using third party, you have to manage, right? By using the third party, you can manage. So that is the reason developers are asked to write in TypeScript. But finally, React application converts the TypeScript into JavaScript. So finally, in browser, only one language can run. What is it? JavaScript. But why developers are asked to learn TypeScript, develop using TypeScript? Because this is good for development. So it is developer's choice. It is developer's choice. For client, anything okay. Because finally he will see JavaScript based concept only, right? That means same concept. What happens? You will utilize all the features of TypeScript and it is translated into JavaScript. So same like you saw Sass and less. What is the concept you understood here is we can handle lengthy operations in a simple way. We can utilize all our programming skills and make it simple. So that is important. Yeah. So finally, the point here is, one second, some audio issues. Yeah. Okay. So you utilize your skills of programming and implement. It will take care about translating it and giving to the browser. So that is only the interest of TypeScript. But these days, all developers are very much interested in TypeScript. And very recently, TypeScript successfully made a trial run in browser. Just 1 month back, they successfully made a trial run in browser, just trial. It was successful directly browser using TypeScript. So in future, it will make a good revolution then. That means developers will directly use only TypeScript. They just made a trial run. So, but it takes a lot of time to implement. So usually all JavaScript based technologies are currently preferring using TypeScript to utilize all its features. What are the features? I will explain. So these are the issues with JavaScript. These are the issues with JavaScript. Then what is the solution? Solution is actually the solution of JavaScript is TypeScript. The solution is TypeScript. Actually, TypeScript is a very big language. TypeScript is a very big language. So actually, Anders Hazelberg. So Anders Hazelberg, he is the architect of TypeScript language. TypeScript language. He is the architect of TypeScript language, Anders Hazelberg. He is very popular in Microsoft company for, so that means Anders Hazelberg. So Anders Hazelberg developed a Microsoft language called C#. He developed a language called C#, which is used by .NET technology. It's a very popular language. He is the architect of that language C#, and he is the person who developed this TypeScript also. He is the architect of TypeScript. So TypeScript is a language which belongs to Microsoft, and it is there before React was there. Before React, before Angular were there, TypeScript is already there. Only the point is TypeScript is used by Microsoft technologies internally. So they use this TypeScript in Microsoft technologies for building. Actually, TypeScript is a language used to build large scale applications. Independently, it can build. So individually, TypeScript can build large scale applications. It can build large scale applications. So what our developers are doing is they are using some of its features for building web applications, right? Actually, TypeScript is a separate language. It's a very huge language. It can even build large scale applications independently. So we as front-end web developers are utilizing some of the features of TypeScript and using it as a front-end language for building JavaScript-based applications. But independently, it can do more work. Actually, it does more work. Why people don't know about this earlier? Because earlier Microsoft kept it as its own language. It haven't made it open source. Actually, Google people asked Microsoft to make it open source because Google people developed a technology called Angular. And before Angular, they were using Angular JS, and they were facing problem with JavaScript. That's the reason Google people started a language called EtScript. Actually, Google started a language called EtScript. They started this language EtScript for their technology called Angular. Angular. Earlier, they were using JavaScript, but they were facing a lot of issues with JavaScript. They started developing this language. And suddenly Microsoft saw that it is already built. Microsoft saw that what Google is trying to build is already there. That means they have that in the form of TypeScript. So then Google had asked Microsoft to make it open source so that everyone can use that and implement it. Then they made TypeScript as open source approximately in 2014. In 2014, they made it as open source. It was there from 2003. Our people don't know that. That means you don't know means don't think that that is new technology, right? So many such technologies are there. You know, Python, people are running behind Python now. It's a 1970s language. 1970s, 1980s, people use Python. All these days, people are not aware of that. People are using some alternatives. But now again, it became popular suddenly. Python is not a new language. TypeScript is not a new language. These are already there. Only the point is they are becoming good in the current generation. Means they are getting good demand in the current generation because of their abilities. So TypeScript is already there. So Google asked Microsoft to make TypeScript as open source. So then in 2014, they made it as open source. When they made it open source, then Google stopped this script. They stopped it. And they started using TypeScript. They started using TypeScript with Angular. After that, everybody started using it. That means every JavaScript based technology started using TypeScript as a language. But TypeScript is not directly understandable to browser. But TypeScript have all the abilities that JavaScript needs. And more than that, what is the features? Means what are the features of TypeScript? So, and see here, what are the features of TypeScript is why developer can choose TypeScript as language instead of JavaScript. First important feature about TypeScript is it is a strongly typed language. It is a strongly typed language because actually it was developed from the C#, which is a very huge OOP language, .NET language. So currently in the market, if you ask what are the current popular languages in the world, so people talk about languages means C, C++, C#, Java. These are the popular languages. In the scripting, JavaScript. Actually, they have .NET have F#, which is used for scientific applications and all. So technically, if you search for popular languages in the world, currently trending, these are very much trending actually. So one of the major advantage, TypeScript is strongly typed language. It is a strongly typed language. It is strictly typed. Means it is internally strictly typed. You don't need to turn on any strict mode and all. It is strictly typed. Another important feature is it supports, actually it is an OOP language. It is an object-oriented programming language. So it supports all features of OOPs. It supports all the features of OOPs. Code level security, dynamic polymorphism, everything is supported by TypeScript. TypeScript is an OOP language. JavaScript is not OOP language. TypeScript is an OOP language. So another point, specialty, it is more popular than other OOP languages. More popular means more abilities than other OOP languages. What are the more abilities than other OOP languages is actually TypeScript is built in TypeScript. TypeScript is built with TypeScript. TypeScript is built with TypeScript. That is the specialty. Because that means what is the specialty about this is it can directly interact with hardware services. So that means with compilers, with hardware services, it can directly interact, which you remembered I told you OOP problems. When we discussed about class concept, I explained object-oriented programming issues I told you. Object-oriented programming cannot directly interact with hardware. They don't support low-level features. One of the specialty about TypeScript is built in TypeScript. Means it is native to operating systems, hardware services. Actually, all languages are built with other languages. All languages are built with other languages. They are supported with other languages. But TypeScript built with TypeScript, that is the specialty. So it is huge because it's Microsoft language. Microsoft have their operating systems, Windows and all these operating systems. They developed this language to directly communicate with their OS, operating system. That's great feature about it. So you are not using all this. You are just using TypeScript for your front-end design. If you have to individually know about TypeScript, it will be just like Java or .NET you learn. Means it's huge. It's building huge applications, right? So we are not using TypeScript as an independent language. We are just using TypeScript as a language for alternative of JavaScript. And very important is TypeScript is not understandable to JavaScript. So actually here you need to note TypeScript is transcompiled into JavaScript. It is translated into finally JavaScript. But developers' choice is TypeScript. Developers use TypeScript and develop an application which is translated into JavaScript. That's the reason companies are not worried about this approach. Company says that we have enough time and our developers are having good skills. They can invest their time in addressing all these issues with JavaScript only. Then company says that, okay, go with JavaScript enough. But company thinks that JavaScript will delay the process. It will have to face a lot of other issues in future, extensibility issues. In that case, they will say that, okay, better we go with TypeScript. So recently, React introduced, they ask knowledge of both. They want JavaScript as well as TypeScript. Because in some projects, you may have to work on JavaScript. In some projects, you need to work with TypeScript, right? So React developers, not only React, for Angular developers, there is no choice now. Actually, earlier Angular uses JavaScript, but now they don't have choice, only TypeScript. No more JavaScript. They don't use any more JavaScript. But React have a choice now that you can use TypeScript or JavaScript. Angular is now only TypeScript. No more JavaScript. They don't use any JavaScript. But React have a choice. In future, it may disappear. That means in future, there will be no choice. Like they may force you to use only TypeScript, just like Angular has done. Angular earlier asked their developers to use both JavaScript or TypeScript, but now from recent versions, recent means from so many years, they forced the developers to use only TypeScript, no JavaScript. Right? This may happen with React also, right? But it will take time. But currently you have both JavaScript and TypeScript. So let's see how to use TypeScript. How do we work with it? So we are going to learn TypeScript suitable for React. That means just how it complements JavaScript. So that we can build React applications with TypeScript. For that, first you have to install TypeScript on your PC. Because TypeScript is not directly available in computers. JavaScript you can use in every computer, but TypeScript is not available in your computers. First, you have to install TypeScript on your PC. So you open command prompt anywhere, npm install globally TypeScript. You have to run this. Remember, you are globally installing TypeScript so that you can use TypeScript for any project. Angular or React or any project can use TypeScript. It is not like for one project we are using TypeScript. Once you install TypeScript globally, then we can use TypeScript for any project. So we will install this TypeScript here. Let's open the command prompt. So npm install globally TypeScript. That's what we have to do. Now it is downloading and installing TypeScript globally for us. And it is installed. And you can check the version after installing tsc-v. That is actually TypeScript compiler. TSC is a TypeScript compiler. TypeScript compiler, it will get which version of TypeScript it is. Oh, sorry, already installed now. tsc-v. This is TypeScript version 5. So that is TypeScript related file, right? Version. Now remember, it is installed globally on your PC. In any project you can try it. In any project you can use it. So how to use TypeScript? For that, first you need to understand one important concept. Actually, TypeScript have a lot of things. I will explain the TypeScript architecture. How TypeScript actually works. What is the architecture behind TypeScript? So this is the basic TypeScript architecture. I will show you the TypeScript architecture diagram. This is the TypeScript architecture diagram. So this is the TypeScript here. And this is Anders Hazelberg. This is Anders Hazelberg, who developed TypeScript. He is the architect of .NET C# language. He is the architect of that. And this is the basic architecture of TypeScript. That means how TypeScript actually works. Actually, as I already told you, entire TypeScript is designed with TypeScript. You see, in the TypeScript architecture, you have a core compiler. We have a core compiler. What is the purpose of this core compiler is to identify the errors in the code. That means, is any keyword wrongly spelled? Is any syntax error, means blocks error? Is any data type error? All this. Actually, core compiler internally contains so many things. You see, core TS, program TS, scanner TS, parser TS, checker TS, emitter TS. Actually, every compiler internally has so many things. If you know about your compilers detailedly, suppose you are learning Java. Java have compiler, JVM, virtual machine will be there. And if you ask can you name some components inside compiler? Very few people can tell that. If you ask .NET people, like, can you tell the compiler components? Means you are using some language like C#, which compiler it uses. He will tell one compiler name. If you ask, can you tell in that compiler what are present? Very few people, experienced people can tell that. Every compiler internally have so many components. Every component have different role and responsibility. Do you know majority of compiler terms will be similar actually. Suppose you see there is a scanner.ts. Even if you know programming languages like C language, there will be a scanner, scanf. You know, can you tell? Scanf is used to handle input. Printf is used for output, input and output. So input is managed by scanner. Output is managed by emitter. Emitter is responsible for managing output activities. Input activities are managed by a scanner. Converting the data types is done by parser. And checking the data types is done by checker. Is the data type same? What you declared, what you are assigning is same. Program TS is responsible for identifying the coding syntaxes and blocks. That means block started, block ended, right? The keyword you written is correct spelling or not. That is all done by program. And core.ts will verify, is there an entry point? You know, main is an entry point for programs. Is there any entry point where to start, where to end? All this is core. Internally, every compiler has so many things inside. So TypeScript have one core compiler. This compiler is first responsible for identifying what are the issues in the code. Are there any problems, syntaxes, errors in the code? If compiled successfully, that means there are no errors. Is this code understandable to browser? Browser cannot understand. Then what is use? So you need another compiler which will translate this code into JavaScript now. That is standalone compiler. So TypeScript have two compilers. One will translate the code of TypeScript and identifies the issues. Another one, once compiled successfully, it will convert the TypeScript into JavaScript. So TypeScript have two compilers, the core compiler and the standalone compiler. What is the role of core compiler? Identify the problems in the code and report those errors. If compiled successfully, translating that code into JavaScript is managed by standalone. Standalone compiler will do that. So we have two basic points first. We have TypeScript core compiler. Core compiler is present. So what is the purpose of this core compiler is it translates, it identifies the issues in code written by developer. So which includes syntax errors, keyword errors, parsing errors, type errors, so input and output errors, etc. All these are identified. So it comprises of various components. So one is core.ts. we have program.ts, parser.ts, scanner.ts, checker.ts, emitter.ts, like that. It have all these options which are responsible for handling various things. That is the TypeScript core compiler. It is going to translate and define everything, right? Next important, we have standalone compiler. We have a standalone compiler. We have standalone compiler. Actually, standalone compiler, actually this standalone compiler is tsc.ts. tsc.ts, right? Yeah. Now it is responsible for translating the TypeScript code into JavaScript. People call it as transcompiling the TypeScript code into JavaScript. That is a standalone compiler. So it is responsible for translating the TypeScript code into JavaScript. Now, how this rest of the concept works here, you can see in the architecture, you have another one, language service. What is the meaning of service? Already we discussed that point. Service is a predefined business logic. So it provides all the library required for handling specific functionality. So whatever the functions and means, you can say classes, methods, functions, a TypeScript needs, that is all provided by the language service. Language, actually, service means technically, it's a very big hierarchy. Generally, we have functions and we have values. We usually have some functions and values. Some related type of functions and values are collected and they are kept in one place, that is called as a factory. We call as a factory. Some related factories are kept in one place called service. So some related factories are kept in a service. So some set of functions are kept in a factory. Related type of functions, they are kept in a factory. And related factories are kept in a service. Now, when you are developing an application, so in many experience level interviews, they may ask this. Generally, they don't ask until or unless you say, I have 10 years experience. Because we can't even imagine a person have an idea on a factory like concept at experience level also. Experience level means 4 or 5 years of experience, 3-4 years of experience you are having in web designing, development and all. We don't expect that you have an idea on factories, because that is for the people who are following these technologies from beginning. Means we have seen these React Angular like technologies evolving in front of us. We know how they are built. We saw them. We saw them from scratch level. That means from their first version, we saw them. Before these technologies, we were teaching other technologies, right? So we even delivered training to people in companies on Knockout.js, Backbone.js like technologies, which were popular before React and Angular. Even today, several companies use them, right? That means we have seen these technologies evolution. Means we are following them from so many years. Means from their birth, we have seen that. In that case, people who saw that, they know their library. That means they know how they are built. They know their library architecture. And anybody knows the library architecture, he knows this flow, that functions are kept in factories, factories are kept in service, and service is used in application. In any interview, if anyone asks like, factory contains functions, then why can't you use a factory directly? Factory is a set of functions, and I want to use a function in an application. Then they will ask, why don't you use a factory directly? Why you are injecting a factory into a service and using that service? The answer for this is why we don't directly use factory. Factory uses a mechanism called single call mechanism. And the service use a mechanism called singleton. Singleton is a software design pattern. If you have learned any high-level technologies, you know singleton pattern will be there. Singleton pattern means for a class, there can be only one object. Generally, you designed a class. How many objects we can create for a class? Any number of objects, but you designed a class in such a way that only one object can be created. Then it is called singleton. We call that as singleton pattern. It's a very popular software design pattern. The point is, if you are directly using a factory, then every time when you want to execute a function, you need to create an object. An object is required every time in order to use a function. But singleton means object is created once and you can use any number of times. That is singleton. So service uses which mechanism? Singleton. You inject once and use any number of times. Whereas single call means whenever you want to use, you have to create an object for that. That's the reason we don't directly use factories. We directly use what? Service. So this is the hierarchical order actually. The point is, what is a language service means? Language service means it contains all the library required for TypeScript. We said that TypeScript compiles and verifies whether keyword is correct or not. From where it will verify? It will verify from language service. So we have core compiler, we have standalone compiler, we have language service. We have a TypeScript server. We have a TypeScript server. Actually, this TypeScript server, what is the role of server? In any software technologies, what is the role of server? The role of server is hosting. The role of server is managing request and response. Hosting the application, processing the request, sending a response. These are all the activities done by server. TypeScript programs are loaded, compiled, processed, and generated output through this server. That means all the TypeScript programs are compiled and processed inside TS server. TypeScript have an internal server. That server is responsible for loading the programs, compiling the programs, and generating a response. That is what actually TS server is, right? So we have two options. Okay. Language service. So actually service is a predefined business logic with a set of factories. So factory is a set of functions and values. So all the library required for TypeScript are is defined by using language service. All the library required for TypeScript is defined by language service. Actually, it is service.ts. Services.ts. Right. Next, we have a TS server. You have a TS server. TS server, so it is responsible for hosting, so and compiling and processing the request. It is responsible for processing the request for TypeScript application. That's what actually it can do. So it is responsible for hosting, compiling, and processing the request for TypeScript application. Actually, it have server.ts will manage all these activities. Another important, you can see there is a VS shim. We have an VS shim, actually shims.ts. This is also one of the concept of programming languages. Actually, at high level, programming technologies have these shimmers. For example, Java, .NET, all these technologies, they use shimmers. You may not heard about them, but Java shimmers will be there, and .NET shimmers will be there. Shimmer library will be there. Actually, shim means shims are nothing but usually it is a word taken from a shrimp concept. It is taken from shrimps. Actually, this concept is taken from shrimps. Shrimp. It is taken from shrimps. They call it as shrimp, actually. Shrimps are nothing but, I think you people know, we have prawns and shrimps. Actually, prawns and shrimps are different. For example, you say, let's say image, say prawns and shrimp. You see prawns and shrimp. That is a prawn and a shrimp. Both look same. Both look same. But do you know the difference? Both look similar. Difference is this shrimp is gender neutral. It is gender neutral. That means neither male or female. Gender neutral they are. That is the concept of shims actually. That means in computer programming, if you have observed, suppose Java shim. This is actually Java shim library. Library you can see. So this is a shim library. It is a shim library. In computer programming, everywhere you will find that. Right? So Java have a shim library. Very few people may be aware of that. Actually, see what Java people do. Shim means language neutral. That means it is platform neutral. That means if any technology says that, if I ask Java people, is your technology platform neutral? That means, can it run on every operating system? Then they say that yes, cross-platform. If any technology claims that it is cross-platform, and who makes the technology cross-platform is shim. Internally, this is responsible for making the technology cross-platform. That means the code that is written, it will be translated in such a way that it can be understandable to every operating system. That is the role of these shimmers. If Java claims that I am platform independent, .NET claims that I am platform independent, that is because of shim. There will be a library which is responsible for making the language understandable to every operating system. Actually, what happens is we generally write the code. After you write the code, this code is translated. This code is translated by compiler. When it translates the code, what happens is it will translate the code. Compiler will translate as unmanaged code. It will translate as unmanaged code. Unmanaged code means it is suitable for specific OS. It is suitable for specific OS on which operating system you compile. Only that operating system can understand. That is the nature actually. But now what happens is the code taken by compiler and processed by shim, what it will do is it will make it as managed code. Managed code is suitable to every operating system. Every OS can understand this code. That means every operating system can understand. That means an iOS can understand. iOS can understand. A Windows can understand. A Linux can understand. Like this, everybody can understand. That means this is the code which is understandable to every operating system service. That is called managed code. So in computer programming, you will come across with managed and unmanaged code. Unmanaged code means the code which is suitable only for specific operating system. And managed code means which is suitable for every operating system. So that is what actually you see. This shim is shim. So actually we have a language service. This shim will use that and convert into managed service. You have two language services. This is unmanaged and this is managed. VS is Visual Studio, that is Microsoft, right? So managed language service. What is difference between language service and managed language service? Language service is only for specific operating system, but managed language service will work for every operating system. If anybody asks like, is TypeScript suitable for all operating systems? Yes. If any language says that I am suitable for every operating system, that is because of shims. So actually, so it is VS sim. So it makes the language platform neutral. That means it generates managed code. So usually that is what we call managed language service. Managed language service. So it is the service that can run on every operating system service, on every OS. So that means the unmanaged code is for specific OS. So the managed code is for every operating system. Right. So TypeScript usually comprises of so many things internally. Remember, I am explaining only the architecture of TypeScript suitable for front-end design. I am not explaining complete TypeScript architecture. Complete TypeScript is different. It is a very huge programming language, right? And it can build high-level machine level applications because it can directly interact with machine hardware services, right? So we are discussing just the architecture needed for our web designs, right? That's how people use, right? And this is the language service actually. That is the concept of language service. Editors is just nothing but it indicates that TypeScript can run on any kind of editor. Support, that is nothing but various editors support we can have. So now here, when you are working with TypeScript, after understanding the architecture, now we will see how to use TypeScript. That means we will see how to write TypeScript programs. How do we write TypeScript programs? Generally, every TypeScript program, so TypeScript program must have extension .ts. It must have extension .ts. So for React, you can have tsx. Just like JS, you can have tsx, which is TypeScript extension for React. So directly you can have TS or TSX, just like JS and JSX. And in this TypeScript, now we will see how we manage the code. These are the points. That means some program.ts. After that, so transcompile the program into JavaScript. Remember, actually two compilers are there, but what TSC can do is it can do compiling and transcompiling both. That means it will first compile. If compiling successful, then it will transcompile. It will do both. TSC here. So program.ts. When you run this, what will happen is it compiles and generates .js file. It compiles and generates a .js file. That means it transcompiles also. It will identify the errors. It will report the errors. If there are no errors, it will translate into JavaScript. So you will find program.js. Now you can link to HTML page or directly compile from terminal, directly run from terminal. You can run from terminal. You can link to HTML page or you can run from terminal. How you can run from terminal? So to run from terminal, how you can run from the terminal is just node program.js. You have seen node compiler, right? We executed compiler, no? Means we used server-side program APIs. Same programs are compiled here. But we haven't learned anything to write in TypeScript. We have to learn that point first, right? Actually, we will see now here. I will add here. These are not required, just remove. So what you do is in your anywhere in your React project or anywhere, create one folder for TypeScript. You can put files and tests. I will show here. This is our video tutorial project. So what I will do is here, I will create a separate folder outside somewhere. Outside, I will create a separate folder. Yeah, I will create a folder, some TypeScript that is just for testing TypeScript. Here we will add a new file. What is that? Program.ts. In this, you write the code. Suppose initially I am writing console.log. Console.log welcome to TypeScript. And how to compile and run. Same from terminal. You see, currently we have only program.ts. Open that file location in terminal. This is the file location in terminal. Here we have to use what? tsc hyphen tsc and program.ts. Program.ts. When I hit program.ts, and you can see that it is compiling, it will generate a JavaScript file. It is going to create a JavaScript file and add by name program.js. You can see program.js is added into project. It translates TypeScript into JavaScript. Now what we have to do? Node program.js. And it will compile and it will display. Just we written a simple sentence. We haven't written any TypeScript, right? That means actually all JavaScript programs functions are valid in TypeScript, right? So, but what is the new thing in TypeScript you need to know? Means majority everything is JavaScript. So, but what are the new things we will discuss here? That means TypeScript language. In TypeScript language, all the rules of JavaScript are similar here. Means all concepts are similar. What is new you need to know? First point, usually language means in language what you learned in JavaScript, variables, data types, operators, statements, functions. Here, first important, variables. Variables actually TypeScript variables. So variables are declared. Variables are declared by using same var, let, and const. Same like JavaScript, no change. Only the additional thing, variables define. Variables are strongly typed. So the variables are strongly typed. Hence you have to define the data type. You have to define the data type. That is the change. Generally what we do, so in JavaScript what we do, we declare var x equal to 10. In that what you can do, in x if I store a, this is valid, no problem. But what in TypeScript happens is, in TypeScript you define var x as number. That means you have to mention the data type, colon data type. Then in that you stored a number and you try to assign a string. This is invalid. It will not allow. It will not allow. That means you need to mention the data type. Once you mention the data type, then it will not allow any another. Actually, one of the great advantage here is variables in TypeScript support type inference. They support a concept called a type inference. Type inference means if I said var x is equal to 10, I haven't mentioned data type. I haven't mentioned data type, but what TypeScript have the ability, according to the value, it fix the data type. According to the value, it will fix the data type. That means now X is what type? Number. That means even you don't mention the data type, according to the value you initialize, it will fix the data type. Due to that, what happens? It will not allow any another value. That's good. That means you see now here, when you are dealing with the data types here, let's see, I am writing here var X and its data type is number and equal to 10. If I try to store some alphabet inside it, it will not allow. It says that string not assignable. Because it is number type, you have to use only numeric. When you declare variables in TypeScript, you have to mention the data type. So here one more point. If I don't mention the data type, so by default, actually, if you don't assign a value also, then it is treated as any type. Any type means it can handle any type. You can see it is any type now. It can handle any. But once you initialize value into it, initialize value 10, then automatically it makes it as what type? Number. Later, if you try to assign a string, it's not allowed. That is the reason many times in TypeScript, you will see people don't have an habit of writing data type. You will be confused. Like you said that TypeScript means you have to mention data type, but some people write directly without data type, they initialize. That depends on TypeScript settings. When you are using TypeScript, we can set rules for TypeScript. Developer have to follow those rules. Those rules are mentioned in a separate file called, they are mentioned in a separate file, tsconfig.json. This you will see in every project where TypeScript is used. React, Angular, Vue, any project where TypeScript is used, there will be this file. And currently we don't have, because we are not having any TypeScript project. We are just adding one TypeScript file. We can generate this file. What is the purpose of this file? It mentions the rules of TypeScript so that developers will follow same rules everywhere. Because you mentioned data type, another person not mentioning data type, that leads inconsistency. In programming, in project development, we don't want such inconsistency. Everybody should use same type. Suppose you written string in double quote, somebody written in single quote, both are valid. Somebody written in backtick, all are valid. Then confusion. That's the reason this file allows to set rules. And not only that, I told you that TypeScript translates into JavaScript. Which version of JavaScript? JavaScript have versions ES5, ES6, ES7, ES8. Which version of JavaScript it translates? That also you can control by using this file. And I told you, if you remembered, JavaScript uses module systems like CommonJS, RequireJS, UMD, AMD. In the beginning, we saw UMD, AMD, different module systems. When I explained about module concept, I told you. In JavaScript, we learned that, right? That means even which module system to use, that also we can decide. That is all in this file. Actually, to generate this file, we have to run one command, tsc. So in it, the tsc init is initializing TypeScript. Once you initialize the TypeScript, automatically you can see that this tsc init is going to generate a configuration file which contains the rules of TypeScript. I think hyphen, hyphen init. Now you can see it is created. You can observe in our project, in our project, there is tsconfig.json. And this file contains all the rules of TypeScript. Currently, all rules are commented. You have to uncomment and mention which rule you want to follow. That means you see currently target is ES 2016. That means ES 6. It is translating into JavaScript which version? ES 6. If your company is using JavaScript ES 5, you have to change this. And see, it is using a module system, common JS module system. You can mention all the rules of TypeScript here. Declaration true, so many options will be there. So many rules, references will be there. Everything you can configure here. Everything you can configure. These rules will allow to reduce the inconsistency in coding. That means everybody follow the same rules, right? We can add rules, we can modify the rules here. This you will see in every project of TypeScript. So how to generate that? So this is variables data type. So here notice to set rules for TypeScript, generate tsconfig.json. And for that, we have to use tsc -init. You have to run this command. Now, we will discuss the language in detail. That means variables, data types, operators, statements. What changes are there? I will explain. So tomorrow we will do that, right? In tomorrow's session, we will start understanding the difference in JavaScript and TypeScript, right? Once you know that, then you can easily implement. So you don't need to learn about what is a variable or a data type. You already know. Only the point you should know how to declare, how to use, what are the changes. You should know those points that we will see in tomorrow's session. Okay.